today on Not So Stock Garage, we're going to be working on this 2022 Taos and doing basic maintenance. And what is basic maintenance? An oil change, front and rear brakes, wipers. Anyways, follow along, stick around, and enjoy the video. So let's first get started with the oil change. First things we did, we rolled this car up on a set of ramps. So the car now is raised on ramps. You could jack it up and put it on jack stands if you like. Also, if you're probably small enough, you might be able to scoot underneath this thing and do an oil change without even getting the car up on anything, because these do sit kind of high. Let's talk about what kind of oil you need for this engine. So this is the 1.5 liter, and it needs a 020 here in Canada is what it calls for, and it's the VW specification, the 50800 and the 50900. This is the liquid moly Top Tech 6200. 5020 is kind of what I've read online that these things take. You could buy other brands of oil. I know AMSOIL is a brand that I like to use personally in the R32 and in the wagon. Now this would not work as this is a different specification, but this is the 502 and the 505.1, but AMSOIL does make one for it. And just here's another type of liquid moly, but this wouldn't work for this car, as this is also a 540. So you really want to make sure you get the right oil, get the right filter. So we have an OEM VW filter, which is the part number for this is a 04E115561 AC. Now you could get a Mann or a Higgins filter. They're the ones that I would recommend. I would stay away from a Fram, as well as we're doing a new drain plug and a crush washer. So that's a great way to prevent any future leaks, because you don't want a leaky engine, and then you have a sad driveway. So now that you have your car raised up on jack stands or ramps like we have done, you got to remove this underneath splash shield. So to do that, you need a T25 and a T40, I believe, are the rear ones. So there's one T25 in the front. You have 3 T25s all down the sides, and you have 3 T40 or T45s on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and start removing all of those. Once you got all the screws off, you'll see the tray wants to just kind of fall out. So we're going to slide it out from the front and go toss this that way. And now, got your oil pan, oil filter, and let's go get the correct nut for that. You can use a 19 mil wrench. You can put a 19 on like a 3/8 ratchet and put a 19 mil socket if you want. To get the oil filter off, generally the oil filter should be hand tight. Not this one. So you can use like a oil filter removal tool, like one that goes on the end here, and when you turn it, it tightens. What I have is, this is from when I used to own a TDI. So this was for an ALH or a BEW TDI to take and remove the oil filter cap, because the oil filter is on top of the engine. It's a cartridge versus this style. This, coincidentally, fits over top. Get your 3/8, except for this coolant line is kind of in the way for this. But if we set this guy to loosen, there we go. And we're going to back this guy out a bit and just let her drain until it's done. And then we will move to remove this once it's done dripping, and then drain the oil pan. And also replace the filter once it's done dripping. And while you're replacing the oil filter, it's a good idea to clean this mating surface. So now that you've cleaned it, you've greased your gasket with some old oil that came out of your old filter. We're going to just spin this guy on. Except for my hands are dirty and I can't grip it. That should be good enough. Good and tight. Clean our old oil. Wipe our pan. Now, let's move to draining the oil pan. Got a 19 mil wrench. Put it on our oil pan. Oops. It's always, yeah, let that drain. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, no, there's no way I'm going to do this. I'll get my fingers dirty. As soon as I released that, it started leaking right away. Even putting pressure on it. Come on. Ah, there we go. All the threads. Okay, so you could reuse the drain plug and just put a new crush washer on it, but since it was only $2 to buy a new crush washer and plug, so we're replacing everything. Let that drain, and then put your new plug, tighten it up. Quick side note, if you are buying a brand new drain plug with an OEM crush washer, just keep in mind this is the used one. This flat side has no seam on it. This goes on the pan. This is the plug side that has a seam down the center. As when these crush washers are new, this is the flat side. As you can see, there's no seam on it. And on the plug side, you can see there's a seam right down the center of it. It's very faint, so just keep an eye on it, but that's the plug side. And you put that flat side, pan, seam side, plug. So now that the oil pan is empty, we're going to put our drain plug and our new crush washer back in the oil pan and seal this guy up. If I can. And the problem is I can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, so we hand tightened it in, put a wrench on it, tighten that bad boy down. You don't need to go crazy, but you do need to crush the washer. All right, we're good. We're going to clean up any oil that was dripping all and around, give our pan a wipe, and now we're ready to fill this engine up with oil. So let's take our oil cap off and set that off to the side. You can do this without a funnel or a funnel. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to use a funnel because it's easy. We're going to put 4.5 quarts and then check the level. This liquid moly jug I bought holds 5 liters, basically 5 quarts of oil. So we'll have a little bit extra for top-ups if in the event that the engine is burning oil, which I don't believe this one burns any oil, which is fantastic. And, ooh, it's green because it's fancy. It's fancy oil. So now that the car is on level ground and we ran the car for a few seconds, it's always good to double check the oil level because now you've pumped oil all the way through the engine and filled up that brand new oil filter. So we're going to pull the dipstick, do a fresh clean on it, put it back down, pull it back up, and we can see we are in the good zone, but we still have some room to add a little bit more oil. So let's get that thing topped totally up and add just a touch more oil. And then we're solid. I would say now we're solid. You can see that whole crosshatch section is now covered in oil, and you know you're totally full. So we got around 4.5 quarts of oil in this engine, and now it's ready to go for another couple thousand kilometers before we dump it again, which will be soon because this thing sees daily highway driving. Let's go over the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a torque wrench that's 1/2-inch drive so you can tighten the 21 mil for your caliper carriers. You will need a torque wrench also to tighten your lug nuts to the correct torque spec that's in the manual, as well as you'll need a smaller torque wrench. This is a 3/8 drive for tightening the caliper carrier slider bolts, which is, what is 22? Yep. That it was. So, I mean, you don't have to, but you could use a torque wrench to do it properly. And then I have a varying wrenches, and I have a powered Milwaukee ratchet to take this all apart. And when you're taking apart the caliper sliders and the caliper bolts, I just use a pair of needle nose vice grips to hold it, as they have a nice narrow end and it works really well. A few other things: brake lube, useful. Blue thread lock for the caliper carrier bolts. A T30 for the set screw. 17 for your wheel lugs. And I have brake clean, wire wheel, and a few other things. So we're going to rip off the wheels and go from there. So let's get these done. Oh, as well as, because this is a Euro, wheel stud hanger. That way you're not fighting with it. And then this is a good time to clean all your wheel studs, especially if you live in the Rust Belt like we do. I should probably jack the car up a little bit higher. The rug kind of held it, but we're fine. Cool. This side looks a lot nicer than the other side. And let's do the set screw. Actually, hit it. That should break it free, I hope. Let's not strip it or break it. Please no break. Yeah, good job. Set screw is a T30. Put that off to the side. It's good to always put a little bit of anti-seize on that or a little bit of blue thread lock so it doesn't stick and seize. We're going to do the caliper carrier bolts next. You'll need your 13. I'm going to use the Extendy Boy because it works really well for that, for cracking them loose. Well, that's one. And the other one's all the way down here. And that's two. So now we want to get them off. Switch, power, reverse, you, get you on there. That just holds it from spinning, really. Put my bolts off to the side. And then we'll need a C-clip, not a C-clip, what was it, a C-clamp to push in the caliper. That's a nice bend on it. It's not too stressed. Cool. So we'll slide off these guys, push in the clips. Just push them out from the sides. Oh, the back is just as bad as the other back. Yep, I'll need to turn the wheel. Big boys. And those get retightened to 147 foot-pounds. Cool. And now we got to take carriers out, the sliders out, and we're going to clean them. And now we can take our crusty rotor off. Man. Yeah, she's hard on the brakes. That's the bottom. That's the top. So there is a different, I'm just going to quickly, there is a difference. So this is the top, it's got the plastic piece, and this is the bottom one. I don't know if there's, if you do it wrong, I don't know what that would happen, but I mean, just for shits and giggles. I mean, it fits, so don't mix them up, I guess. Usually you would replace the boots, but these boots are in good condition, so they're only 2 years old and have 100,000 kilometers on them, so they're not terrible. Rotor's cleaned. OEM stickers are taken off. These are OEM rotors. Apparently, this Taos has no brake pad wear sensors, which is weird. It's fine. We're going to put our set screw in. Oh, wait, before we put the set screw in, let's put a little bit of anti-seize on that, so it don't rust and you don't break it and you're not sitting there cursing at it. So you do not need a lot. Just, oh Jesus, this is making a big mess. I'm gonna go, boop. Oh! Oh no! No! I need a magnet. It's sinking. It's, I can't even. Oh no! Fuck! It's sinking. Okay, don't drop it in your anti-seize or hold it over it, or else you're gonna have a bad time like I just did. What is going on here? Do you want to put the bolt in? Or are you holding it? Okay. Oh, goes in real nice because they're just full of anti-seize. Yeah. No kidding. All right, let me just snug her. Done. Okay. Let's put our 21s in. Start them by hand. And then we'll zip them until they stop. And we're not going to like zip them till the end of the world. Just that. 147 and a half. With, like, there's channels for pad sensors. Like, that's what I don't get. So there's a spot for a pad wear sensor. There's no pad wear sensor on this car.
On either side.
When you ordered it, it called for pad wear sensors.
Right.
So I don't know what version of a Taos needs a pad wear sensor. A European one? If they sold this in Europe? Holding. We wind you out a bit. Put you in. Out, 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 out. We're in?
Yep.
Good enough. All right, we tighten. Cool, that this does the job. Cool. All right, let's put it on the car. Okay. You want to get me the 13s? Did I thread lock them? No.
Yeah.
Not yet. Okay, that can stay. I love this style of thread locker because it's like,
Very easy to work with.
well, yeah, it's not the liquid stuff. It's like a paste. And it's almost like a glue stick. You can actually get like a glue stick style too.
Yeah.
But I like this. Look, see, you don't put a lot. You just put a little bit. And you just dab it on.
Nice.
Works well. Hang the top one. How many times on my Savage the motor would fall out because the vibration of the motor? Constantly. I was like, I'd wrench those tiny little bolts, Allen bolts, as tight as I could. Okay, let's snug these up and then we'll torque them. I mean, that's probably already 22, but it's not me driving, it's Alex driving, so I want to do this right. And it's on the internet, so I guess I should do it right. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh shit, I over tightened it. Okay, let's do it again. There we go. It's still doing stuff. All right, cool. Both tightened. 22.
All right. Straighten the wheel.
Straighten the wheel. That's easy. That's really easy. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Let's get started on the rear rotors. Now you've seen the installation of the front rotors, fairly simple, very standard, 312 millimeter rotors, brake pads, slam them on, done. The rears generally is about the same, but the big difference with this car is it has digital electronic rear parking brake. Well, what does that mean? Well, I can't use a traditional caliper tool to spin the calipers or push the calipers back in to make room for our brand new brake pads. What I need to do is actually use a scan tool. So this is just a generic Amazon one that my cousin bought for his Atlas to retract the rear parking brakes. And apparently this will do the job. My VCDS cable is too old to actually plug into this 2022 Taos. It works on my 18 Sport Wagon and my 04 R32 and a 2012 Touareg, but not something this new. So they must have changed something. Also, parts you're going to need, you can buy whatever generic brand pads and rotors if you want. What we're using today is actually OEM rotors that are coated so they won't rust as fast, as well as OEM brake pads. Now, if you're interested in the part number for these, the OEM brake pad part number is 5Q06984518K, and your rotors are 5QM615601E if you actually want to go down the route of doing OEM. And also, which is quite cool, is the box says Volkswagen Group. And this box held both rear rotors. Another good thing to have too in your arsenal when doing brakes is a quality brake lube. So this works for all the caliper sliders. This is the front caliper slider on a GTI Performance Plus. This is the rear one. You'll find out why I have those just for the wagon later on. But anyways, you're going to need this, a few wrenches, probably some Torx as usual. But let's get ahead and let's start ripping one of the wheels off. So once you have your car jacked up, you have your wheels off, the car's secured at the jack stand, all that fun stuff. A few of the tools you're going to need is a T30 to get the set screw off. You need a pry tool or a flathead screwdriver to take this caliper retaining spring off. Both of the sliders use a 7mm Allen. Now on the passenger side, where the gas tank is, there's actually a lot less room around here with the brakes line, so it was very difficult to work around here as you had all the tank filling stuff there, as well as you will need a M14 to take the caliper bracket off to get the to get the rotor off. For tightening everything, it's 66 foot-pounds plus 90 on the caliper brackets. Your caliper carriers, make them good and snug. After you use your scan tool to reset the parking brake, you still need to use your caliper tool to spin in the rear calipers. So I will show you that. Let's get this thing fully dismantled, and first we'll start with our set screw. Trick with set screws is go slow, don't use power tools. Even put your socket, you put your Torx in and hit it with a hammer a few times. Just enough to free up any rust that might have accumulated. But as you can see, this one's clean. Came off pretty smoothly. Now, take your cap off. Take your cap off. Get your 7. Get your ratchet. Probably a better way to position my hand, but I can't think of one right now. We're going to take our sliders out because we're going to re-grease these. Put them off to the side. Get the bottom one out. Got that one out. It looks like we have more room here to place this somewhere. Another good tip I found from the other side is take the ABS sensor off, which is on the back side of the spindle. Take that out. Take it out of here. This will give you a little bit more room with the caliper. I mean, you could unplug the caliper, but I mean, on the driver's side, there's so much more room, and there goes our brake pads. And yeah, these are just as cooked as the other side. So all done. So now, this is the annoying part. We have to take, you'd think, oh yeah, I can get my rotor out. Nope, can't. Gotta take the caliper carrier off. So this is where your M14 comes into play. I have 2 different M14s I use for this. So on the back side, right here, you have the top one, top M14, and then there's a second M14 that's actually in the spindle. And they are a pain to get to. Everything's in the way. The shock, the caliper, the upper control arm, the rear axles for the all-wheel drive. Everything is absolutely in your way to do this. It'd probably be a lot easier on a hoist because you can get in from underneath. So once you've cracked both of your caliper carrier bolts, then you can get in. I can't get my power ratchet in there, so I'm just doing everything by hand. But yeah, they're tight. I mean, which is kind of crazy because they're only 66 foot-pounds from like the Golf R specs. I can't find much on this, so I'm just following Golf R because it uses electronic handbrakes. The rear carrier is also all-wheel drive. It's also aluminum. It's very similar. I use the all-wheel drive. Oh. Yeah, everything's very similar. Second one, caliper carrier. Big old sad rotor. put some new stuff on this car. Once you have everything apart, you're gonna have to push the caliper in. As you can see, even though we retracted the parking brake, we have to push in the actual caliper physically. Now on Volkswagens, they don't push in on the rear, they actually spin in. So you're gonna need a caliper tool like this. So this actually is, I think it's reverse thread. The kit I have comes with both left and right-handed threads. So you're gonna select the right adapter that fits the caliper. In my kit, it's a number 7. Bear with me as I now finagle this and struggle. That's now fully pushed in. Basically, you want it to be flush, and so you're going to turn it until it stops, and it's going to have a hard stop. I don't think you can over tighten it. I've never done that before, but now we're ready to put our caliper in, our set screw. So now that we've removed everything, let's get our new rotor. We're going to line it up with the set screw hole, if you have a set screw that is intact. Put this bad boy on. Hold that. Actually, again, I got ahead of myself. Stay. I'm going to put on the set screw just a tiny bit of anti-seize. Try not to get yourself completely covered in anti-seize. It happens every time. Just do your best to use a little bit. Let's see if I come back in copper coat. Now, we're going to put the caliper carrier back on, put the brakes on, the new brake pads, and we're going to grease all those. So we're going to put our calipers on. Now, something I just noticed, and we cut for it, because I made a little bit of a mistake. On the rear Taos brakes, there's these springs, and the springs that are on the brake pad goes on the inside, and the ones that don't have the springs go on the outside. So that's how they were originally. Right, so you can tell this was the inside one as it has the marking, witness marks from the piston, where this one has the witness marks from the caliper carrier, or the caliper. So grease the ears, slide this bad boy in, and cleaned the channels. We're gonna grease the other one quickly. Just dab a bunch of grease in there. Don't wanna go crazy, but you just want some so it slides nice. I need to clean the caliper carrier, the caliper sliders. So here's your caliper sliders. Just give them a quick wipe. As long as they have no grooves or any big damage to them, you can reuse them. So now we have everything bolted up. We're gonna slide our caliper. Oh, I mean the caliper should be retracted fully. Are you kidding me? It did it twice. I went all the way back. And then it's like, nope, no, do it again. I do it again. I didn't do anything. Now it fits.
Just wanted an extra hug.
I just wanted extra love, eh?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, just squeeze me more. Now we greased our sliders. We cleaned our sliders. Get your retention spring, put that back. I always get it started on one side, and then I grab a screwdriver, place it in. This is just how I do it. If you have another way of doing it that works for you, then that's great. There we go. So what I do is I actually put the flathead underneath where it goes, and I just kind of pry it around, kind of reversal of installation. So now all that's on. We just need to torque the main caliper carrier bolts wherever my torque wrench went. I'm back. And we're gonna click these guys up. We still gotta plug back in our ABS sensor too, so don't forget about that. Okay, now that those are tightened, we're gonna put back our ABS sensor, so you have working ABS, all-wheel drive, and traction control, because all of that relies on ABS sensors. Oh, you went in nicely. I didn't have to persuade you. Okay, we're done. We're gonna throw the wheel back on, clean up, go for a test drive. All right, so in this step now, we're just gonna use the basic OBD2 scanner to go in to the module that controls the electronic parking brake. You're gonna follow the prompts on the screen. Now here I've sped it up about 400% because it does take a little bit and actually required us to restart the vehicle a few times. This was our first time ever doing it, but essentially following the prompts that come up on the OBD scanner. Now this is going to vary depending on what you actually chose to use, if it was OBD11, VCDS, or something like this off Amazon. All of them will work. You just need to make sure it is compatible with your vehicle, and it would be a similar steps. So now we're just cycling and now putting the wipers in service position as we're going to change the wipers. So let's get these wipers installed. If you're using universal wipers like I am, you're going to have to select the right attachment for your car. In this instance, the Taos uses the slide-on style wipers, and it has just a single button. As you'll see here, when I remove the center wiper, you push in, slide off. And installation is as easy as the removal. There we go. All right. So with that, rear brakes are done. Front brakes are done. Oil change is done. We got new wipers, a new cabin air filter. All the basic maintenance is now done on this 2022 Taos, and it's ready to drive for many more kilometers. Again, like this is my sister's car. It's her daily driver. She drives it probably about like an hour every day to work. So it's a lot of driving on it. So it's good to be able to do your own maintenance, and it'll save you a lot of money in the long run. And even on a newer car like this. The biggest hurdle we had really was the rear brakes. There's not a lot of access to those caliper carriers. So getting a lot of height and just having a lot of extensions and just having patience really helped with that, as well as the universal scan tool that we had that said it works for VWs, worked for this, but it didn't without being a little fiddly. It sometimes was throwing errors, and I just kind of kept going through the menus and ran it through it again, and then it worked, and also power cycled the car a few times. So with all that done now, and everything is good, fresh oil, we're ready to go for quite a few thousand kilometers. If you like more content, if you want to see more content about the Taos, let me know. We might be able to do some modifications. It all depends on what my sister's willing to let me do. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and remember to subscribe to Not So Stock Garage. Have a good one.